Hey there, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Danny.
And this is Jim.
And it's 2025, baby.
Well, it will be by the time this comes out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's practically 2025. Anyway.
Like brand new 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Woo.
Whoa.
Well, the coming years, it's a portent of darkness, dismay, sadness, rage, fury.
I am an optimist.
Are you?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm going with that.
Okay.
And I think we could say goodbye to 2024 because this has been a terrible year.
Sure. I mean.
And hello to a new year. And hopefully the new, you know what? Let's not talk about it. Let's just not talk about it.
I don't want to.
Okay.
I said all I wanted to say in very, mild descriptive.
In vagaries that
Yes.
everyone understands.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we will see, because, other things do happen in the world. So, there we have it.
Wow.
So, welcome to 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can probably tell, I'm still not 100%. But, good enough. It'll work.
We're still not profitable as a podcast. So, hey, listeners. You should check out our website, lordsofmisrealproductions.com, and check out our Patreons and maybe become a patron and help us make this podcast not come out in the red every year, but break even.
I mean, that would be a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
I was really excited.
Well, the whole 2025 thing kind of just like sucked the life out of me.
Oh my gosh. Should we start over?
No.
Should we just... Okay, let's take it from the top. Hey there, B-Siders.
There's no getting it back.
Welcome to Bravo for the
Go to the Patreon. Please become a patron. Also check out our YouTube channel, channels,
mm-hmm.
and our Instagram and Facebook. And, what's really important is doing the thing. Like, subscribe, comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think on YouTube, I keep saying this and I keep forgetting to check. I think comments are disabled. Okay. I know they are on one of them because I'm not interested. There's other avenues. YouTube is the worst way to get communication, right? I mean, if you're moved to say something, we have an email address. I'd rather get it there.
Yeah.
And plus there's stuff on Instagram there. YouTube is just a jungle of, I don't want to deal with it. A lot of people have turned their stuff off, like comments and stuff, because they have other avenues, right?
Yeah.
So, use it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Help us out.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. And, by sharing and liking and stuff, it moves things up and gets it out there. And other people who may potentially become patrons.
Some exciting news this week.
Yes.
You and I are on vacation as of right now.
Yeah.
As of this recording.
Yes.
Yeah. We're recording this during our vacation, and it is before the sleeping hours of the household, which is new for us.
Right. This is a couple hours before we normally come down here to do it because we got to wait for the girl to go to bed, and we got to put the animals to bed and, have moderate silence in the house. But now we just kind of like tuck the animals away for a bit and just felt like getting down here.
Well, except the cat. So if you hear the occasional thunk and thumble or whatever, that's a cat upstairs.
Well, hopefully they'll be good.
But yeah, we're kid-free for a week.
Yes.
We sent the kid away.
Yes, Christmas week.
Yeah.
Christmas week. And this is the week, listeners, as you probably already know, that we did our year-end oh my God.
Retrospective.
Our rear-end retrospective.
That's
Jesus
our
Christ.
mid-year episode. The rear end.
The rear end
Retrospective.
in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, our year-end retrospective, and with Oscar Michaud. And I hope you listen to it because if you haven't, stop this one right now, jump back an episode and listen to it. Marvelous, magnificent man.
Fascinating bit of history.
Absolutely fascinating bit of
and
history.
Important.
Very important because really he helped shape the evolution of how the film industry works outside of
the studios,
the templates and the studios.
Yes.
Massive indie film influence. Creator, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point, there was a bunch, then there was a point it was just him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he kept going is, I think, what kept the whole thing alive, to be honest. Right. So, yeah, please give that a listen. And there's some links in the descriptions. It should be showing up on all the various platforms that we're on. Go to the websites, read a bit more about him. We were, I think, pretty detailed, but it wasn't exhaustive.
You would have to talk for much longer than approximately 2 hours to be exhaustive.
Yeah. But there's links to his surviving films.
Mm-hmm.
Please give them a watch. They're just fantastic. Let's see what else. Really, nothing this week other than vacation. Oh, I do have an announcement.
Is this the thing?
I don't know what thing.
Okay, say the thing.
I'll say the thing. So, Finding Frenzy, Revenge of Zoe, and Love Song of William H. Shaw are finally all together, available on Amazon Prime.
All right.
Folks, I can't stress this enough, right? Cliff, Marty, and Jeff need you to see their films because you need to see them.
Mm-hmm.
These are just treasures. And it is these three movies back to back to back are, I think, the pinnacle example of what indie film is. This wasn't like done in 2014, 2015, and 2016. No. Right? There are years in between because that is the truth of 90% of indie filmmakers. It takes a long time between projects, right? Because most everyone's like us. You work, got day jobs.
Yeah, they all have day jobs.
Yeah, got to do something. But you want to make these films.
Yeah.
And finding the time. See them. They're there because some of you may have watched Revenge of Zoe or, the Love Song. But Frenzy has been hidden for so long, not on platforms and stuff. And that's where it all began. So give it a go. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, all right.
Right. What was your thing?
I can't say it.
Oh, man.
It's top secret.
Fine.
It had to do with an invitation you got to a thing, but I don't want to say it.
Oh, yeah. Let's. That's a long way off.
Yeah.
So let's kind of hold that later.
Well, that's why I said I wasn't going to say it, but you pushed it.
I will say we are going to work on getting the great Mr. Jeff Notkin on here, in addition to like a lot of other people. But Jeff, we communicate regularly now, which has been just fantastic. It's like a couple of weeks in between emails, because busy and stuff and time, but just, it's been very wonderful. And he is very anxious to come on and basically talk about whatever. But yeah, I want to get him on soon.
We could have him on for a mid-year rear end retrospective.
I think it'll be before then, much before then. But just a lot of things that we talked about have to do with the arts and stuff and just how we perceive them. And, we see eye to eye on pretty much everything. And there's just some things I would like to talk about in a kind of a round robin discussion of, indie film and, photography, just a bunch of stuff that, it's all kind of related.
Yeah.
And, what What can we aspire to in 2025? What directions do we think the industry should be taking? Indie film.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. Hollywood can go wherever it wants. I'm done with that. But I think it would be some really good discussions, and I think listeners, especially the new folks, would get something out of it, some kind of inspiration maybe to turn the page a little bit. I mean, that's the whole thing about indie film.
Yeah.
Is there's no template. There's the tenets of making a film, telling a story, but other than that, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Yes. And your enthusiasm about this interview has inspired me. Here's what we need to do in 2025. We'll commit to this live on air as we record. Ready? Much like we did for 2020, where we took it and made it our year, even though it was crappy.
Yes.
Let's do that for 2025.
All right. I'm in.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out.
Well, we were just working on something today.
That's right. We were.
Yep. New project. We're not going to talk about it.
Too fresh.
Too fresh. So fresh, we're not even sure what the whole project is. We know the theme. We know the premise.
Yeah.
Right. We don't really have a plot, because a plot requires some sort of end game. And this is it is a really cool, very tricky kind of thing.
Well, it's inspired a lot of interesting discussions between the two of us.
Yes. Well, and it's one of those where there's an ending, but we don't know where it is.
Well, we don't know
what it is, because it can go
is the right one.
Well, because like second act, we have to fork, one way or another, and there's so many options.
Yeah.
So we're doing the discussion, we're taking the notes, we're building the story, making the choices. Because this choice depends on the choice before it, and so on. So we got to lay that out. But good fun. But with that fun aside, we have a movie.
Tell me about this movie. I'm excited to talk about it.
So this episode, we are going to talk about Digging for Fire, which had been on our list for a little while. And then we forgot about it. And then we came back to it. Done in 2015, directed by Joe Swanberg, written by Joe Swanberg and Jake Johnson, starring Jake Johnson, Rosemary DeWitt, Orlando Bloom, Brie Larson. Those are the keys, but there's a lot of smaller roles in there.
Yes.
By known folks.
Yeah. There's Timothy Simmons, Jenny Slate, Jeff Baina, Mike Birbiglia, Steve Berg, Kent Osborne, Sam Rockwell, Chris Messina, Anna Kendrick, Sam Elliott, Judith Light, and Tom Bauer. I mean, a lot of really good actors and comedians.
Yes.
Star-studding this little indie film.
It's wild. It's wild, the amount of people in it. Rated R. We didn't get a budget, of course. I think you said you found that it made like 120,000
in the box office.
In the box office. So we don't have however much else, rental, streaming kind of thing. But so this is interesting. The log line for this is: the discovery of a bone and a gun send a husband and wife on separate adventures over the course of a weekend. And we will address that at the end.
Once we go through the film.
Yeah.
I have feelings.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There is a lot to talk about. So, all right. Do you want to take us into this bad boy?
Yeah. So.
Take us away.
So, we're with this young family. Jake Johnson and Rosemary DeWitt are the parents. They are house sitting for a wealthy client of the mom of the family. Apparently an actress who's off filming somewhere in the world. And they're talking about how it will be fun. They're kind of treating it like a little mini vacation is sort of the idea. So they're like exploring the house, and then we have the mom teaching the little boy who is 3 some yoga moves by the pool.
That's pretty cute.
It is cute, yeah. She's an instructor. The dad, meanwhile, is kind of walking around. It's a nice house, you
Hmm.
know. So a little while later, dad comes up to the mom, whose name is Lee, and shows her a bone and a rusty gun he found somewhere on the property. He says it was in the hill.
Yeah, so it's a weird property. I mean,
Hmm.
it's obviously in the hills because it's all bumpy and wavy, like the driveway's like climbing a you know cliff
Yeah,
face almost. It's crazy. And then the backyard, there's like a tennis court and a pool, but surrounding it is just these hills and like a private walkway
yeah.
through and around them.
I mean, I think the idea is that it's in the Hollywood Hills,
Yeah.
right? He thinks that someone might be buried there
Yes.
and they should check it out.
Yes.
And Lee is not interested in investigating it. She tells him to leave it.
Yeah. And with the important reason being, let's not dig up the client's yard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their little boy is there.
Yeah.
And he just came up with a bone and a gun, and the little boy's asking questions. He calls the police, who are not interested in investigating because, to be honest, he hasn't found much, right?
I I mean, it's funny. It's weird, but it's true.
Yeah.
LAPD are just not interested in every little thing. They just don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
They
So,
told them call when they find a body.
yeah. And he's like a little bit, taken aback by that. He's like, what? So then Lee is teaching some clients while dad is like playing with the boy, Jude. And her clients they're this like kind of yuppie couple. They're telling her about going to India on vacation and about how everyone should do it once in their lives. And Lee starts talking about having kids limits what she can do. And they're like, well, we don't let it limit us. We've got kids and blah, blah, blah. So then we have the dad grocery shopping, and the store doesn't have any regular kind of milk. And he goes on this little rant about milk. They have every other kind of milk.
I wouldn't call it a rant. I think it was just I don't know if it was to point it out or like get it clear in his head.
Right.
So you don't have like regular milk. We have goat's milk. We have this milk,
Cashew milk, almond milk,
and
soy
this
milk.
So no, so you don't have any regular milk.
Right. And then at dinner, the little boy Jude is talking about poop at the table, and the dad, whose name is Tim, is engaging, and mom is not amused.
Yeah.
Yeah. The table itself is kind of covered with receipts and tax documents.
Mm-hmm.
Tim is supposed to do their taxes. And so he and Lee start arguing about that. And then Jude starts crying. Things are a little strained. Then later, Tim and Lee are talking about whether or not to take money from Lee's parents for Jude's preschool. She wants to put him in like a nice preschool.
Well, her mom and stepdad.
Right.
Yeah, mom married a very wealthy dude.
Right. And they're disagreeing about what preschool to take him to. And she ends up grabbing a marriage book off the shelf called Passionate Marriage and leaves and says, I'm going to go read this.
Well, so Tim is a public school teacher.
Right.
And he has some reservations about private preschool. Well, private schools in general.
Yeah, I didn't get at this point that he was a public school teacher. I just thought he didn't want to send his kid to a snobby school.
Right. It's very brief in the conversation. It wasn't a focal point.
Right.
He just kind of...
Sure. And then she's talking about going to her mom's for the weekend because she needs a break. She's going to take Jude with her, leaving Tim alone at the house. So they are taking sort of like separate breaks during their little mini kind of vacation while they're house sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells him not to forget to do the taxes. And then Jude is asking her why dad isn't coming with them. And she gives this very cute little speech to him, but essentially telling him dad has responsibilities, so he's at home doing his homework. So Tim is not doing the taxes. He's just relaxing. He's like shooting cans, smoking a joint. He has some friends over. They're grilling. He's talking to a friend of his about the preschool thing. And this is where I caught that he's a teacher at a public school.
Okay.
So he feels hypocritical not sending his kid to public school. And then there's more guys over and they're talking just like random stuff, cats. And the conversation didn't feel that important to me, so I didn't read the details of it.
Well, the cat thing was about having a cat put down at home versus taking it in to get put down.
Oh,
Yeah, it was kind of like we jumped in like towards the back half of the middle of it, and we got to the end where the consensus was, wouldn't it be better to, have its last memories and moments of life not surrounded, by terror and fear, by taking it on the drive and taking it in this weird, strange place and all this strange shit. Just having someone come to the house,
mm-hmm.
do the process, and the cat's comfortable and, kind of thing. Don't know why it was put down. Don't know whose cat was put down. In all of this, there's a couple shots of the table with the untouched, unmoved receipts,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is kind of cute in a way. And then they're like playing some pool games and stuff, just a really weird kind of thing. And these friends are like kind of the same level of a nerd kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're pretty mellow.
Yeah, I mean, this
Right?
isn't like a wild and out party. This is just a bunch of dude friends together hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're playing this pool game. And then we see this shady looking dude in a leather coat and stocking cap coming up the driveway. And then we find out he's Tim's friend. Tim's very happy to see him. Like they hug and everything. And then we cut to later. They're sitting at a table and one guy's talking about Weight Watcher points for a bun.
Yeah.
How many points it is for a bun? Just a bun? So then all of a sudden Tim comes up and shows them the gun and the bone that he found earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And the new guy, Mr. Jacket Stocking Cap, wants to go down there and keep digging, like instantly. And then everyone is in except for Mr. Weight Watcher.
Phil.
Is that, well, I get him later. I think way at the end I got his name. I just kept calling him Mr. Weight Watcher. We'll find out.
Leather jacket guy I call Punk Sam because it's Sam Rockwell.
Okay. So anyway, they all end up going. And so we see them digging, and in their digging, one guy finds like a Nevada license plate, to which Mr. Weight Watcher says, it's garbage. If you keep digging deep enough, you're going to find a dump. Mm-hmm. So he's not like really into it. Everyone else though, like Tim is like, oh, that's really cool, man. Good job.
Well, it is from 1957.
Yeah. But they're all into this kind of thing. Mr. Stocking Cap says, hey, to Mr. Weight Watcher, if you aren't going to dig, how about some hookers? And the answer is just a plain no.
Right.
Later when they're on a break, Tim says it's exciting. Then another dude finds a bone sitting next to him while they're sitting on this bench along that path that goes along the hill. And he's just like, what? You found just right there? Yeah, just now while we're sitting here. And keeps going. Then we get like little clips, not really a montage. It just cuts to a little later.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it's only Tim digging. And there's two of the other guys sitting next to him talking about random stuff. Mr. Weight Watcher wants to call it a night. And then we cut to Stocking Cap and Tim are talking. Weight Watcher's leaving, and then followed by the others. Then later, Stocking Cap comes up the driveway with two women and some dude named Tango.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. So now the new party with this new crew is all about cocaine and fast talking.
Right.
Kind of goes hand in hand. right? So the two women tour the house. Tango and Stocking Cap are, comparing the women naturally. And then Tim's talking to Stocking Cap. Apparently, they're close, but they haven't seen much of each other.
They used to be close.
Right. But, because of Jude,
Right.
right? He's got a kid. Stocking Cap does not.
Yeah, and he also keeps shutting down Tim every time Tim tries to bring up his kid.
Yeah, that's something. I want to bring that up kind of towards the end.
Oh, sure.
Tim is really excited about being a dad, and he is. He's trying to like any new dad, anyone who's had a 3-year-old. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're
great.
great.
Kids are a huge pain in the ass when they're little. I mean, they really are. Right? There's tantrums and stuff, but that's a small measure of everything else. It's just fascinating. I completely got where he was coming from.
Yeah.
They're fascinating to watch. They're fascinating to listen to when they are able to start talking in sentences.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They form themselves. Those questions, half the time, are just absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
And then the other half is sometimes they're just
nonsense,
but they're basic and stuff.
Yeah, but watching a kid grow is incredible.
Yeah, because they're becoming someone.
Yeah, you're watching a human become human.
Yeah, and you have no clue. You made this human.
Mm-hmm.
You have no clue what's coming.
Yeah,
it's a wild ride. Anyway, so Tim is asked if Lee gives him time to just hang out and do his own thing. And he says he couldn't handle it. He'd feel trapped.
Right.
Right. And then we cut to later. Tim is digging again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not really interested in the girls or the drugs.
No. I mean, it's like he did his thing.
Mm-hmm. I
had my guys over, right? Did a little bit. Then he's like laser focused on this new interesting discovery.
Yeah.
Right. So a little while later, when he's digging again, one of the women comes to find him, and she wants to help him dig. So the other woman and Tango end up in the pool making out. Tim and the other woman are digging. Tim finds a shoe, and he is delighted.
Yeah, it's like a loafer.
Yeah, like a old 60s, early 70s style flat toe dress shoe loafer.
Yeah, he's so excited.
Oh, man, he's just... it's just... And she's excited with him.
Yeah.
So he runs up to Stocking Cap, who by now I've learned is Ray. Mm-hmm. Ray is not terribly enthused.
No.
Like he throws the shoe
into the pool.
Yeah. And then no one really cares other than Tim and the woman who was with him.
Right.
Right. So he heads to bed, leaving Ray and Tango with the women. So we see Tim in bed. He's eating pizza, admiring the shoe, like really admiring it. Right. And he eventually puts it on, and it fits. Mm-hmm. And the world could have, the look on his face was like, if it all stopped right now, I'm going out on top.
Yeah.
And up to this point, I want to say there's nobody to this point has really had screen time, fully engaging.
Right.
Right. It's been a lot of little bits, everyone sharing or very short singular type of thing. But I felt in touch with every one of these characters, because the very few things that we saw were like staples into who they are, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Weight Watcher is a party pooper. He's just very, he's like an accountant.
Well, he's grown up.
Well, right? I mean, he's grown up, but he's still, they still have things in common, clearly, right?
Yeah.
To be friends. But yeah, he's just kind of like no nonsense, and his face when Ray's like, If you're not going to dig, how about, get some hookers? And, no.
Right. And there's a point at which he asked him if he's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But it seemed like they all know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was kind of nice. Ray, on the other hand, is completely diametrically set up
Yeah.
than these guys. He's like the macho dude. He's the cool guy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's his whole personality, is being the cool guy.
Yeah. So he's not into these little things. And, oh, you found a shoe. Fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. But Tim and that shoe, I don't know. It was something to see. It just was really well done. The expressions and everything. So the next morning, we're at Lee's mom's place. And this was like a, kick in the balls in the good way. Her stepdad is Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
He's not playing himself.
No.
But anytime Sam Elliott is on the screen, win.
Yeah.
It's a fucking win. He could walk by, like photobomb a scene. I don't think any director on planet Earth would cut that.
Yeah.
Sam Elliott just walked through my movie. Freebie. Right? He can only raise your stock. So, and we kind of talked about how cool would it be to have a dude like Sam Elliott as like your stepdad.
Right.
Just kind of like show up, all weathered and
full of
wisdom and just, done with the bullshit. Oh, that would be fucking fantastic. So
Sam Elliott could tell me it's about to rain meatballs, and I would be like, really? I would believe him.
I'd be making pasta. It's like, what? I have no reason to doubt you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're talking about private school. We knew this was going to be coming. Mom really wants it to happen. The conversation doesn't really go anywhere. And up to this point, we've had, I don't know how many conversations. None of them have been beginning to end.
Right.
We have come in at the middle of a short one or at the end of something. Like one sentence by this person, one sentence by that person, and we're done. Kind of thing. So that was a little weird. And we'll talk about why that was a little weird later. Doesn't go anywhere. Later, Lee's looking around at like books in the hallway. So it's another big house. Sam Elliott's character is stupidly wealthy because his house makes the one they're staying at look like a garden shed.
Right.
It's fucking mansion. And, there's bookshelves and books and stuff. So she's looking around and she pulls out a book, and it's that fucking book, Passionate Marriage.
Right.
So even later, she's sitting with Mom asking when she'll get herself back. And she's like, Mom, when did you get yourself back? And she means when you have a kid. So her mom's answer is, when I divorced your father.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know that that's helpful.
No.
Lee seems not fully into the life of a mother at this point, because there's some more like words exchanged and stuff. And this is where I noted, like this whole time it's just samples of conversations, like walking in the middle of one, not knowing how it started. Sometimes we only had the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Where it started somehow, we hear a little bit, but we don't know how it ends.
Right.
There's been a lot of that through here. But I did get the distinct feeling that she is somewhere mentally that, well, she doesn't know where she is.
She's trying to figure out how, her own identity fits into this picture of being a mom and a wife.
Right.
And,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You have to make a new one. Your identity is a parent. You can be a parent who still enjoys the stuff that you enjoyed before, but priorities, right? Things come first. And at this point, so I see where this is going,
mm-hmm.
Because up to now, it was a little difficult figuring out, because we've seen mostly Tim. but it's a little difficult figuring out where their trajectories are going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tim still haven't quite figured out. We've just been busy.
Right.
Not a lot of direction. Little
Yeah.
hints about him wanting to talk about his little boy, and just getting shut down.
Mhm.
Because of all these other conversations. Let me go back to the house.
Well, an
Oh,
important bit
sure.
at her mom and stepdad's is that her stepdad, she has a little conversation with him. And he
Yes.
tells her that it's important to remain the person that brought something to a relationship.
Yes.
Right? When you're married, you're still two separate people. You don't just become one person.
Right.
And it's important to, remain a person that brings something to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that was the most words we get out of him.
Yep.
I think he says something at the table, like 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it.
Sam Elliott doesn't need to say a whole lot.
He really doesn't. I mean,
but what he says counts.
The dude has been a legend with the voice, with or without the mustache, right? Mostly with the mustache has been like the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just got one of those voices that is so, so unique. Okay. Then we're back at the house with Tim. He grabs a coffee, sits at the table to take on the taxes, and it looks like he's going to do it. He picks up a receipt and he's starting to analyze it. But then he sees through the window someone walking around outside. And of course, he has to go out there, and we know it's over. We know the tax table is done for the day.
It doesn't take much to distract him.
And so he goes out to him, and it's some dude who brought something for Lee. I still hadn't caught exactly what the whole thing was.
So he's a neighbor of the person who owns the house.
Right.
But he knows Lee.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, so Tim invites him in, offers him leftover cocaine. It's like this baggie with a little bit of stuff in it.
I don't think he so much offers it as it's sitting on the table and the neighbor's like...
Well, because he's like, gesturing, and, the dude refuses. And he's like, yeah, that's okay. Tim grabs the bag. He's like, yes, leftovers anyway. But then as they're talking, the dude offers to help dig the swimming pool because he knows a guy. He's seen Tim digging. He thinks that he's there to dig a pool.
Right.
Even though they already have a pool. So Tim says there's no pool. He's just digging for cool stuff, Indiana Jones stuff. And when the body thing comes up, the visitor, the dude, doesn't think it's all too grand. So he says there's no way he would go digging down there.
Right.
Have all that shit come back on him. A little ominous.
Yeah.
Tells Tim he doesn't want to find anything down there. And then he calls it the Chicano Gallery of Honor.
I thought he called it the Chicano Hall of Fame.
Or Hall of Fame. Okay, maybe that was it. I have Gallery of Honor or something because I was still busy noting when that came up. But either way, not cool.
No, it's bad.
It's not cool. So this guy, it does like the last little piece, cemented him as like a typical 70s LA, because he's not a young fellow.
Right.
Typical 70s LA dude, and not really probably a good one. Just those undertones. But that cemented it for me. I was done. Like I don't need to see any more of him because I feel like this train has gone as far as it can with that character because he's shit.
So we see the girl who's helping Tim dig, Max, returning to the house to fetch her purse that she left behind. And it seems like her intent is just to grab her purse and leave. But she finds Tim digging again.
Yeah, he's back at it all by himself.
Yep. And then we cut to Lee, who is trying on a biker jacket at a store. And then back to Tim talking to Max about getting older, but not feeling older. You know, he tells her this story about him like laughing with these two teenage boys because he's a teacher, you know,
Yeah.
and they basically, then he looked at himself in the mirror and he was like, but I don't feel old. Anyway.
Yeah. I didn't get that bit noted down because it was that quick in the I mean, we just came in and he was saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have, it took a moment to absorb it, and then we were moving on.
Well,
But
yeah, and then they're both digging and she finds a bag, like a plastic shopping bag
mm-hmm.
full of bones. And they're both super excited about it.
Yep. Like a weird Easter egg hunt.
It is, yeah. And then we're back to Lee, who is taking some money from her mom's purse for her little night out that she's going to do.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird, but I got the feeling that her mom doesn't care because she wasn't exactly like hiding it.
It was in her wallet, in her purse, on her bed, in her bedroom.
I don't know.
I don't think there was an open invitation to come and take out. I mean, it took out, what, like almost $1,000?
Yeah, it was a lot of cash.
Yeah, these weren't ones and fives.
Yeah. So then she gets in an Uber and she's talking to the Uber driver.
Quick point. She did buy that coat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
she did.
That she was admiring.
Mm-hmm. So she's talking to the Uber driver about how people with money are happier. There was a study.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's at her friend's house. And this friend she had briefly made plans with on the phone, like on the way to her mom's.
Yes.
To go, like, have a night out because her mom's going to watch Jude and yada, yada. So she's then at her friend's house. Her friend's got 2 kids and they have a new nanny. And so they're telling her about this new nanny. They're, her friend's husband and her friend are having a little bit of an argument about their upcoming vacation and whether or not the nanny should come.
Right.
They have differing views.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out that her friend can't go with her out for the evening. So she's going to be on her own.
Yeah. And basically just saying she just can't go.
Yeah, she doesn't really give a reason.
Yeah, the kids aren't sick because they're playing with the nanny at the pool or on the side of their pool.
Or her friend just seems like she just doesn't want to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something there that we're supposed to catch on to, but
right.
Anyway.
So we're back to Tim and Max, who decide to call it on the digging and go get some dinner. They're covered in dirt because they've been digging. So she says she'll need to borrow some clean clothes because she can't go out to dinner covered in dirt.
Right.
So while she is showering at the house, he starts cleaning up the party. He's just like throwing bottles and bags. And Phil, the Weight Watchers guy, stops by. And
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying to note, Tim is dressed like Ray.
Yeah, he's got
leather
the
jacket,
leather coat,
stocking cap,
beanie, yeah,
jeans.
Mm-hmm. And Phil, I feel like, is Tim's adult friend. Like, it seems like they're good friends, and they're both adults. But Phil has got, Phil's serious. He's a little bit of a wet blanket.
I don't want to spoil it if you have it, but who Phil actually is.
Oh, I wasn't going to put that, but you can. Yeah.
Oh, well, because there's a line where Phil is actually Lee's friend.
Oh.
Works with her.
Okay.
They're friends.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what. Keep going.
Anyway, so he sees Max come out in a towel saying the clothes don't fit, blah, blah, blah. Tim's like, oh, just grab whatever. And Phil is troubled. He points out that Tim is dressed like Ray. He thinks that Tim's kind of going off the deep end a little bit.
And that's where he says, he's like, I don't know what's going on here. I think you're in trouble. What's happening? He's very concerned.
He is.
And then he points out to him, he goes, Tim, I'm Lee's friend. We work together. What's going on? Kind of like, I'm sorry, dude. If you're fucking looking to do something, I am not on your side.
Right.
I'm not your soldier. I'm your
Right.
wife's, right? And it was very gentle, but not so subtle that you couldn't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tim, meanwhile, is just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. Nothing's going on.
And Phil also, he's like, also, that coat looks ridiculous.
Right. So then Lee's driver, her next Uber driver, is talking about his divorce and how ultimately it was the best thing for him. And it's a very strange conversation. But then Lee's kind of just walking the town, checking stuff out, walking down the street.
Yeah, so she's looking around, and she she eventually ends up going into like an upscale bar because that's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those places, folks, if you've ever been to LA, there's just like these weird stretches where it's not really upscale like you would think about it, but it's more, God, I don't even know. I always call it kitschy. It's like a bar that was built around the thing that's going on now, the aesthetic, the mood, the vibe, whatever you want to call it. They may not be there in 5 years because that mood and vibe and aesthetic kind of go away. But it's just one of those areas of town with a lot of things like that. So she goes in, and then we cut to Tim, who is with Max, and he's talking about having a kid. He's talking about how the connection between himself and Lee has lessened because everything is about Judah, and that's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't go away. But anyway, he's not negative about it. He's just like stating it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so I have 100% towards her. She has 100% towards me. You have a kid. That percentage goes down both directions, So, I mean, he is like cool about it, but he has such passion when he talks about how fascinating it is to him that this little person relies on him for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He's just like, ah. And then we go back to Lee. She's sitting in the bar at the bar, wanting to get something to eat. And some guy is hitting on her, and it's so sad because this guy is like not even. I mean, he would have such little luck with a blow up doll trying to pick it up.
Yeah, he's bad.
It's bad. The lines are terrible. I mean, oh my God. She gets up and goes to sit at another spot at the bar to order some food. And the guy, of course, follows. And I didn't get his name.
Doesn't matter.
Till like the very end, but Orlando Bloom is sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
At the end so it's like an L-shaped bar, right? So she passes the corner, has a sit, guy comes sit next to her, and Orlando's at
on the
end,
other side, yeah.
On the end, yeah, on the other side of the guy. So, and he's really doing what he can to just very politely like distract the guy, keep him from annoying Lee and stuff. Ultimately, he escorts the guy out.
Mm-hmm.
They get into a scuffle, and he comes back in with a pretty deep cut on his forehead.
Yeah.
Right. Lee gets some ice to put on it. Says it's deep. He needs stitches. He doesn't want to. And then I love this. He says, "Oh yeah, I have a friend who's in medical school. She'll probably do it." And Lee, very just like flat pan. Well, I don't care who does it. But it needs to get done.
Right.
And it was actually very mom.
It was, yeah.
Very mom. Because she had that kind of tone earlier with the yoga teaching with Judah, having fun with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. She's like, it doesn't matter who does the stitching, but it needs to be stitched.
So we're at the friend's place. The friend is not terribly steady. He's trying to give him a shot.
Right.
And she's just like all over the place and her hands moving all over. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, she is one of the girls that Tango brought to the party.
Yes. The one that is not Max.
Right.
And I didn't catch her name either.
No.
So anyway, ends up getting that shot in there and starts stitching. There's been some like cutting back and forth. Lee has been just wandering around the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and so she is looking and she finds another copy of Passionate Marriage on this woman's bookshelf,
Right.
right? Um, and then there's like more random conversations while the stitching is happening. Lee's asked how she's doing. She says she's hungry. Um, but at one point she shoves the book
Under a couch cushion.
under a couch cushion.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah.
Well, she wants to stop seeing this book.
Yeah. And then we cut to their leaving. Apparently the friend did not have any food because she's apologizing that, sorry, I didn't have anything to eat. So Lee's still starving. Orlando starts up his bike and then they go off. And now we're back to Tim, who is back home with Max. He's wearing the one shoe and they're playing around with the gun.
Yeah, they're playing like gangster.
Just really weird. Yeah, just kind of very strange.
Goofy.
Honestly. So I put, because, you're trying to keep up with this stuff, that Orlando apparently owns a restaurant, or he just had one hell of a kitchen. And then you pointed out he's the bar owner.
Yeah.
So that clocks. But
Yeah.
I already said the stuff. So they're in the kitchen of the bar and he is cooking for her. And then we cut and they're just like having some conversation. Wasn't relationship based when they're sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another snippet. And I truly did not get what the context even was. Just sort of a short thing. Because then we're back to Tim, who they're still kind of doing the weird thing and talking. And then she said, Max is sitting on the couch and then he goes to lay back to put his head like in her lap.
Mm-hmm.
Gets back like 6 inches and then just springs forward.
Well, he touches his head to her lap, and then springs up.
Okay, yeah. And then springs up and then just like walks off camera.
Yep.
And Max is just like,
okay,
sure. And she looks kind of like disappointed and confused. And then we're back to Lee. Her and Orlando are discussing earthly desires versus spiritual desires.
Yeah, they're having this sort of weird conversation.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Tim. He's washing his face. And then suddenly Ray is there. Mm-hmm. When Tim comes out to Max, Ray shows up. She starts leaving.
Yeah.
Tim tries to get her to stay. Ray says he'll just leave him be. And then he comes back in a minute later for a beer, starts yakking. And then Lee is still talking to Orlando. Cut back to Tim. Tim tells Max if she's leaving, she needs to leave the dress that she wore.
Yes.
And I mean, that makes sense. He didn't do it mean.
Well,
He's
no.
like, I gotta have the dress. Cut back to Lee. They're still talking. And then we come back to Tim and he's asking Ray, why did you do that? And Ray says he's just trying to help him out. Tim is angry. Then we have Lee talking. And then Max leaves when she comes back from changing out of the dress. Ray just wants to hang out. And then Tim yells, shut up. I mean, loudly, shut up, Ray. And Ray suddenly throws his bottle against the wall and leaves.
Yeah.
This was really weird. And then Lee and Orlando are on the beach walking. And eventually they're holding hands. And then eventually they kiss. She's talking about how she thinks she knows people that are happy. And it's this weird happiness conversation.
Mm-hmm. So then Tim is digging again. And he's got a pretty big hole now.
It's an impressive hole.
It's a very large hole. And then we kind of cut back to Lee and Orlando, and they kiss again after she backs off. And she, backs off again. She tells him, "Thank you for a good night," and walks away. Tim, meanwhile, is digging, and he finds a gold ring in the dirt.
Yes.
And then he starts kind of digging some more. And it seems like he's almost given up on the hole, like just before this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up uncovering a skeleton hand.
In the side of the,
Mm-hmm.
the pit.
Yeah, it's like poking out of the wall of his hole. And the uncovering is probably the funniest part of the film.
Yes.
Just his reaction as he slowly uncovers more and more and more of it until it's very clearly a hand.
Well, every little bit is like a little, like startles him.
Every finger.
Yeah.
And then it's like he realizes, like, I should have left this hole alone.
Well, that scene is probably the longest single scene.
Right.
Right. Of any other scene in the movie. All the conversations, all the things going on. We spent the most time with him doing this hand uncovering. And it was just fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So then he gets out of the hole. And we have Lee walking alone on the beach. And this woman with a telescope tells her to look at Saturn.
Yeah.
So she looks at Saturn. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lee, waiting for her ride, her Uber or whatever, seems to come to some realization while she's looking at her phone. And Tim is reburying everything they found.
Yep. Gun, bones, shoe.
His leather jacket and beanie.
Junk. Oh, yeah. And his Ray outfit.
And he seems to come to a realization, too. He gets back to the house from his hole, and Lee is there by the pool. And he's covered in dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just standing there looking at him. And they kiss. And then they get in the shower together, or they're washing their dirt. It's a lot of dirt in the shower that comes off of him. It's like straight mud.
In his hair, he has to have like a solid inch of caked dirt.
I'm glad that you thought so too.
It was a lot. Oh my God.
Lot. Like this water's coming out like paint brown.
Yep.
Anyway, and they're packing to leave the house. I don't think Tim did the taxes.
No, because he was just roughly scooping it back into a shopping bag.
Yeah. And they head off, talking about getting breakfast together, just the two of them, and how much they missed each other.
Yeah.
And he says to her, "I'm not the same without you."
Mm-hmm.
As they're kind of driving off.
Yes.
The end.
That's it. Now there's some things to talk about.
We did something interesting with this film that we haven't done often.
We did.
We watched it without taking notes the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that we did, because on our first watch through, both of us were pretty upset about this film.
Right. And well, you had mentioned in the Hereditary episode, because
mm-hmm.
we'd both talked about it, but I couldn't say anything because, and we've had this discussion many times, actually.
We have, yeah.
It's difficult to take the notes and watch the movie raw. Because that's why I end up naming characters
mm-hmm.
like Burlap, Dino Girl, Weight Watcher.
Yes.
Because you miss it.
Well, and you need something to call them, right?
Yeah.
So I guess our first lesson. So this is why we were angry the first time we watched it. The trailer.
Yes.
Was it set us up to expect a different film.
Well, this goes back to the beginning of this episode. The logline.
Yeah.
Was as misleading as the trailer.
Well, I mean, the logline is technically correct. Technically.
Yeah, okay.
But that doesn't make it a good logline.
No.
Right? Our dog is technically a dog. But that doesn't mean that he's a normal dog.
I mean, that's true. Good example.
Right?
Fucking idiot.
He is. He's an idiot.
I love that dog to death, but he's so fucking stupid.
I know. Yeah. He can't help it. He's dumb.
I know.
And it, like when you realize a person is truly stupid and you're like, there's nothing that can be done here. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched this and we were furious because we were like, we're going to have to watch this again and take notes on it.
Well, so the trailer, because it's listed as a comedy, right?
Right.
And the trailer made it seem not like National Lampoon kind of, because none of these
Not like
actors are at that level,
gutbuster funny,
right?
but most of the actors are comedians.
Yeah. And it just made it seem like it was going to be kind of a wild, wacky,
Yeah.
sort of kind of thing, right? Because the trailer was every little funny moment.
Right. Sort of goofy adventure of them digging up a body.
Yeah. No clue whatsoever that this has to do with marital issues
No.
and parenting and just this whole. It didn't allude to that one bit. I mean, you can take as much acid as you want. You will not find that hint in that trailer.
Right.
Right.
Right. But then it was a little while before we watched it again. And before the second watch through, because we were talking about this, because we were mad about it.
Yeah,
we're talking about it a lot. And we started to like it a little bit more as we talked about it more.
Yeah, because initially it was like, now I'm to the point where I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm done hating it.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's just nothing worse than going into a movie expecting one thing because that's what they promised to deliver to you and then getting this whole separate other thing. You just aren't mentally on board to take it, right?
No, it's kind of like, going into a movie thinking that it's going to be a slasher and it turns out to be a Christmas rom-com.
Right.
And you're like, what?
There's rightfully some anger at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone into movies totally blind before, and that's fine because I don't know what to expect. But I like knowing somewhat of what to expect out of a film because that's why you watch a film. A logline and a trailer are supposed to sell you a film.
Mm-hmm.
And it is rightfully angering when the logline and trailer sell you a film that is not the film that you get.
Right.
So.
Now, in the past, we have covered some movies that we've watched twice. But that's usually because we just like picked one to watch for us. And then we're like, oh man, we got to talk about this.
Yes.
So then we'll do it again with the notes.
Right.
Right. And we're going to try, again, it's time.
Right.
Because now this is 4 hours divided up into
two
different nights during the week that we got to take out and, what's going to give.
Yeah.
But we're going to try it because I like the idea and I think it's what saved this.
It is what saved our opinion of this film.
Yeah.
Because the more we talked about it, the more we started to understand what the film was trying to say
mm-hmm.
and what the film was trying to do. And the more we could appreciate it.
Right. And then we did the watch the second time for the notes. And it was better.
It was better. It was much better.
It was much better because we were on board
mm-hmm.
with the story. Still undecided
right.
about what happened. But I made the jump to, I think I like it. And there's actually, I'm going to say this, the music in this movie, there's some music I don't care for because it's like licensed, rock stuff. But a lot of it is original.
Mm-hmm.
It's instrumental synth mostly, which is weird. I ended up digging that music. I found it on iTunes. And I actually listened to a long, like the 7-minute track. Right. It's one of those where the music comes up in various, in slight varitions.
It's a repeated
bursts,
theme.
But this is like all of it strung together, So it's about 7 minutes long for that track. I listened to that fucker all day in my headphones, pounding out work.
I know. When you went out somewhere with Lily, she told me later, she was like, Dad made me listen to calming music in the car.
Yeah. So we went to the comic workshop.
Yeah.
Like, here, listen to this. And yeah, it's calming. She's like, reminds me of all that calming shit you made me listen to as a kid. I'm like, well, you liked listening to that because it actually calms you the fuck down so you can go to sleep.
Yeah, no. Dad forced me to listen to calming music in the car.
Yeah. It's just a little, I didn't do the whole thing. God, that kid,
I know.
honestly. So yeah, there's a soundtrack to this.
Hmm.
I highly recommend it. I think it's really good. Because it's that weird music that fits the mood where there's moments during the day where I need to just like completely, jam. I have to pound out stuff. And that's the kind of stuff I usually get something like wild and fast and like pump, 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 right?
Yeah.
But then there's like when I'm doing the builds and stuff, it's got to be slow because I need to focus. There's no rushing. So I got to be able to think. So it's not going to be like metal or anything like that. It's calming stuff.
Yeah.
This fit both bills. It's good.
Yes.
But with that aside, recommend this movie. And for me, a couple of reasons. So the conversations I'm still at a little odds with. There's just a lot of them. And I would have really liked to have been a participant in at least one. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just to get more of each of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, that aside, once realize this isn't a beginning to end, just tomfoolery bullshit, it puts some relevant questions out there.
It does.
What do you do?
Yeah. As a new parent.
Yeah. Now, in mom's defense, I guess, because, she ends up kissing Orlando Bloom.
It was Orlando Bloom.
I might.
I mean,
we were just talking about like how people age and stuff, and like George Clooney.
Yeah.
I've.
Who wouldn't kiss Orlando Bloom?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it's like if anyone was going to turn me, it would be Clooney.
Sure.
And then we got talking about that movie where they're talking about Freddie Mercury flipping straights.
Yeah, that was Tom Lasso.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Which was, I think, one of the single greatest lines ever written. So anyway, she tried to go to her mom.
Mm-hmm.
That whole bit with the pooping thing, where the little boy ended up crying, I don't think that was scripted.
Oh, the boy crying.
The boy's too little to take that kind of cue. I think that was genuine. I think it was when they were saying the lines,
yeah.
The little boy, because you could see he was like, I'm sorry. And then he just puts his head down while they're doing lines and starts crying. And then they immediately get him out of there.
Right.
So poor little man, but it happens, kids that young, they don't know what the hell's going on. And sometimes they react to, good actors putting that negative vibe, because it wasn't like yelling.
No, but it was very tense.
It was very tense.
Yeah.
Her stating how his actions make her the bad person.
Yeah.
I think that was clear without being like a yelling argument and everything. And he didn't fully register it. I think Tim didn't. He did apologize, but not as,
not in a way that made it seem like he fully understood what he was apologizing for. It was more like, I'm apologizing because I feel like I need to.
Yeah, reflex.
Yeah.
This is that moment where I say the words, I'm sorry. And that's kind of how it came out. Not like, I'm sorry. That's not, but I also can't help but wonder if there was supposed to be more of it, but that little kid situation, know, and clearly they're not going to do another take. Poor dude. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to run a 3-year-old through that bullshit again for another take. You just work with what you got. And I think it worked out. I think it spoke to the situation,
Yeah.
building, but that's in hindsight.
Right.
At that moment, I didn't quite get that. I just thought maybe it was a little, And just a little tense moment.
Yeah.
You know, but then she didn't turn out to be like a disciplinarian. She didn't turn out to be like a just, you know, stick up her ass, tight ass mom.
Right. She's just trying to be a good mom.
Yeah. It's just, she was just expressing something.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, the whole thing with the yoga and stuff. I mean, they both interact with their kid very well.
Right.
So there's no issue there. Right.
Yeah.
But, oh, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to bring us off track.
Sure. It's what we do, though.
So we started kind of going into the overarching themes of the movie, but I want to talk very quickly about some of the minutia, the technical aspects.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could do that. I was going to come back to that, but we could do that now. Bring it.
The coloring in this movie was very good.
Yes.
It was very soft.
Yes.
Coloring.
Yes.
You have thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's like you know, folks who have done this know it's like you took that slider and moved it to, you know, all really far over to the left to the desaturate, right?
Portrait mode.
Yeah, it wasn't super bold. There was nothing alarming or stark. It was very everything. I don't want to say muted.
It was soft.
It was soft. Yeah, that sort of faded bit. You know?
And I think that was really smart, that theme of color, because this film is a portrait, right, of these two people and their, you know, their personal struggles.
Right.
Right. So I thought that was appropriate and well done. All of the actors were great.
They were.
And
top to bottom.
And it was a whole, you know, good cast. I mean, these are all well-known actors. I mean, Brie Larson, you know,
yeah, you know, Sam Elliott, even though he just had a moment.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, they're good. They're good actors.
Yes.
And yeah, and they don't get a whole lot of screen time, most of them, but what they do get is excellent. The writing, sneaky.
It is.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that after we're done with the technical pieces.
Yeah.
On why that is. But
the lighting was very good. Also soft.
Yes. I want to talk about the sound.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. It was good.
It was.
You heard everything.
Yeah.
Nothing was overpowering. Nothing was out of proportion. When the music was playing, it took focus, because that's what it's for. It wasn't background music, right? There was a couple pieces that were kind of like over the radio background stuff, but the movie's themed music was perfect in terms of volume. It kept you through the quiet. It wasn't stark, but when somebody talked, it didn't fade away.
Right.
Until they faded it out, you know, for the scene. Again, the importance of sound, but the dialogue was loud and soft, and we heard every single word of it. So I don't know if that was done in mic. I don't know if it was done in post. I don't care. But folks, if you're like, what do I want my movie to sound like? You want it to sound like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of the goal of a film is to be the fourth wall, right? You're looking through the fourth wall into this scene that is being painted. And it did feel like that, even on our first watch through, where I wasn't as big of a fan of what was going on, because I felt like I had just stumbled into someone's living room and was watching like the middle of something that I had no context for. It's just, like, that's the feeling you're supposed to have when you watch a film, which is what they accomplished.
Yeah.
And I want to give props to that.
I was thinking about it. It's not quite the right word, and I'll explain, but it's almost like a scripted documentary.
Sure.
And by that, I mean coming in on the conversations and stuff. And by scripted, I don't mean like, you know, because there are documentaries where they don't tell people what to say. You know, that's scripted reality.
Right.
But when I refer to scripted, it's more like action scripted, where like her scene with looking at the jacket.
Hmm.
right? So they might be interviewing somebody and they're talking about, yeah, I was, in a place looking at a jacket, and like, hey, if we got time, can we go get a shot of you looking at a jacket in the store? And they'll edit that in as she's talking,
Right.
right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with that. And normally I would hate a movie that seemed like a documentary, because most documentaries these days are all shaky cam bullshit, right? Like, we're going to, talk and try to get some mood on the person who's talking about some horrible traumatic thing. I don't think you need to shake your fucking camera at them so that when we're watching it, they're like moving all over like a, fucking 9.5.
It's to emphasize the trauma.
Yeah, it's bullshit. The camera work was solid. The movement was solid. And it looked for all the world like they hired camera people who knew what they were doing and had a director who understood how the audience appreciates being able to just look at something that's not shaking,
Hmm.
But there was some movement, but it fit. It didn't feel forced,
Right.
right? We weren't forced into a perspective or anything. It flowed. And a lot of it's afterthought, because once you get over the hump of, thought this was a comedy.
Right. It's not very funny.
There's some like haha moments, but Terrifier 3 has some haha moments too. It doesn't make it a comedy, goddammit.
Yeah, there's some wry smile moments,
Yeah.
but it's not a gut buster, this film.
No, except that bit at the end with the hand. Because that was Jake Johnson is fucking phenomenal.
He's very funny.
At facially expressing what's going on, physically expressing what's going on. And his back is to the camera for the most part.
It is.
On
Yeah,
that
his
one.
face isn't even toward the camera.
Yeah, but you still get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His body language is very good.
It's crystal clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lighting was perfect. Nowhere was it too dark that we couldn't see anything. Like the bit on the beach. With ambient lighting and obviously the right lenses.
Right.
And supplemental lighting.
That was true night filming, as far as I'm aware. I don't know. I didn't research it, but it didn't look like day for night.
No, it wasn't day for night. Yeah, no, they were filming at night, but yeah, that's where the ambient stuff is. But you could tell there's a supplemental because the ambient light would have been coming from one side at one angle, and we would have not seen anything. But it didn't look like day for night.
Right.
They didn't overlight it and then bring it down, because then that has visible, noticeable earmarks on what happened. It technically it's super sound.
It really is. Yeah. And that was, if we had ended up not liking this film, I still would have argued that technically everything was done well.
Yeah. I mean, we could say this like we have before. The story was terrible. Acting was terrible, if that was the case.
Right.
But technically, this is what you want to achieve, right? Is there any more technical stuff?
Nope, that's it.
The editing was good.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was jarring. Again, very kind of casual. I don't know what the style is. I want to call it like casual documentary. It just seems so purposeful, but like not forced. I felt very comfortable letting this fall into my eyes minute after minute.
My comparison is, you're a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is soft portrait, is the style.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
I'll buy that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the writing. You said it was clever.
I said it was sneaky.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
Sneaky. Well, I call it clever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll get picked up, but the cats are storming around while little man's in his pen. So anyway, we had talked about when I first was pseudo raging after the first view and the confusion. I said it seemed like they were doing this movie and this movie, but they way missed the mark. Right.
Right.
But that was because I was just like still shell shocked.
Still angry.
Now, the second time through, I still hold to those two movies, but in a positive light. So the first one I want to bring up, and folks, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. Movie from 1985 called After Hours, starring Griffin Dunn. It's got Linda Fiorentino. It's got a bunch of people. Linda Fiorentino, Rosanna Arquette. Directed by Martin Scorsese, and it is a film unlike any other. It's the only one of its kind. The reason it's called After Hours is because it's about this guy, Griffin Dunn, who's just this plain office dude. He's a word processor. That's what they call him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's 85. What did not I work on a word processor, but he's a word processor, a data processor kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, it's after hours. Like, they can't sleep and all this weird shit starts happening. And it just goes from 11 p.m. all the way to sunrise, right? And how the world is different. I love the fuck out of that movie. It had been so long since I had seen it. If you remember when it popped up on, I think, Tubi,
Mm-hmm.
you went to bed. I stayed up and watched it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I love this goddamn movie. It hasn't been anywhere for so long. And it holds. From 85 till now, it holds. And the whole feel of it, though, is you just don't know what to expect. You don't know where it's going. It's like, what is happening? And that's kind of like this, right? Like, what the fuck is Tim up to? What he's digging, and then he's doing this thing. We've talked about it. If Ray hadn't stopped by, he would have absolutely fucked Max.
Yeah.
All right. He was having some problems with it, I think, which is why
so.
he got up and washed his face. And it was like that. I don't think he would have avoided it. I think it would have happened.
Well, and then he was angry with Ray.
Yeah, because
for stopping it.
Yeah. And then we had the discussion. Do you think they told each other?
Yeah.
I almost saddled this woman and she's like, I kissed this dude.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did. And that's a whole conversation in a different direction. But the feel is very much After Hours and Lost in Translation.
Yes. Because that was a comparison I made in my notes as well.
Yeah.
It's like they were trying to do Lost in Translation.
Right. Now, visually, you're not going to get the same feeling watching After Hours as this.
Right.
Because it's Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sofia Coppola, though, shot Lost in Translation in a very similar style as this.
Yeah. I mean, not exactly the same, but similar.
Right. But the colors were never potent.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so Digging for Fire is not a movie that you have to see on the big screen to get the message. Mm-hmm. Whereas we talked about Lost in Translation absolutely needed to be seen on a big screen because the level of isolation that was centering around these characters on the big screen just made it so vast. Right. But just like this, you had good sound, good lighting, even, guerrilla filming. Mm-hmm. Stuff. But yeah, the colors were very muted. The feel was very soft.
Right.
So I would put this in that group where none of these three are a slice of life film like Local Hero or Station Agent.
Right.
Right.
But we were talking about, it is a film about, most films have to do with higher stakes things.
Yes.
With many stakeholders.
Yes.
In them. But they're not small stakes. They're like personal stakes.
Right.
Intensely personal stakes.
Yeah. Each one of them, they're having the same problem, mm-hmm. which is the lack of connection.
Right.
Right. That Tim is aware of.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously she's aware because she feels it.
I think Lee hasn't quite identified what it is.
I don't think she's identified what it is, but I also, seeing like her mom, I see, when they do things like that, the idea to me is to glean from the mother character more about who Lee is.
Sure.
Right? Because like it or not.
Yeah, we all become our parents.
Something translate or drives something. Now, in this case, she didn't drive Lee to be a certain way. She's very much like her mom. Yeah. Right? Not quite. Like if you put the blinders on, she'd be blind. seeing straight ahead directly doesn't seem like that's really her bag. She's like a peripheral type person. She doesn't see that core, but then she sees everything, to the sides of it. Raising a kid involves this, and this.
Hmm.
So peripherally or straight on, that part's the same. But she's not just like she's seeing out to the side, but she's not getting straight ahead. I think Tim is a little more dialed in, but I think he's less worried about who is he
Yeah.
than our relationship is changed or has changed, and we're not going out and getting coffee every night after dinner. We're
Hmm.
not sitting doing our thing. We're not going to see art films. We're not doing all this shit because we have this little boy, right? So I don't think it's a whole thing of him being lost in himself in as much as the relationship, because the way he talked about how he just loves his everything about having that kid,
Yeah.
right? He's good. He knows who he is. He's a parent. He's just struggling with that lack of bond,
Yeah. And it
right?
is actually a very apt, I mean, very exacting comparison between the feelings of men and women, right? Particularly the male role and the female role when you have a kid,
Right.
right? Moms, you lose your whole identity because you become literally everything.
Mom.
Yeah. You become mom and nothing else.
Yep.
Right? Even when your partner is, talking about you to you, they're like, oh, mom's going to do this, mom's going to do that.
Yeah.
You barely even get called by your name, honestly. And it's sort of, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Well, I think it kind of goes both ways a little bit, but it is way more weighted on moms.
Yeah.
Right. But when we talk to Lily, we don't address each other by name.
No.
When referencing ourselves or each other to her. Go ask mom. Mom said. Go ask dad. Dad said.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I think that's acceptable, but it really does go.
Because it cements you not as a person, but as a role in the kid's life.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
Yes. And then, everyone outside that immediate circle, your mother, your father,
Mm-hmm.
They're literally, I grew up with kids who did not know their parents' names because
Yeah.
it was never spoken around them, and how often do we call each other by name?
Basically, just when it's just us. And even then, we have our pet names and,
Yeah. Most of the time, though, I just talk to you.
Yeah.
It's not like writing a book where I need to direct the reader, in the same direction of my speech,
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's like people over, I'll just look at you. Can you grab that? Can
Right.
you do that? And occasionally, yeah, we have our pet names, but very rarely am I like, Danny, can you do this? Yes, Jim, I will.
Right. I mean, almost the only time is when I know I have to get your attention because you're focused on something else.
Yeah. But I think, and these guys didn't do it. But so like Lily's here, any age, right now, or even when she was little, I don't look you in the eye and say, Mom, what do you think?
Right.
Right? Oh
Yeah.
man, that's got to fuck kids up. I, to me, that is robbing each other even more of individuality.
Yeah.
You're not Danny anymore. I'm actually calling you Mom.
Yeah.
And I mean, it gets funny when people are in their 80s, husband and wife, mother.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that, but whatever. I'm not ever going to call you mother.
No.
And yeah.
I'd rather you didn't.
Oh, I'm not gonna. That's just weird.
But so yeah, Lee is more lost in that. That like, who am I now?
Yeah, she's
How
lost
do I get to me?
her.
Yeah.
And I think the loosening of the relationship kept her very far away from the buoy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think Tim had the buoy, and I guess I'll just call it, he was, probably a great guy, but he's just an idiot man,
Yeah.
right? That he's, gonna bed this woman. So if that had happened, he'd be the total criminal here, just purely. But we were back to her mother is very avoidant, very dependent on.
Doesn't like Tim. I mean, I don't think her mom likes Tim at all.
She doesn't. And it's not enough to, she's like, well, he's a public school teacher. Of course he's gonna. But I recognize that venom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she does not like her son-in-law at all. And she's really like wound up. And Sam Elliott's just like, whatever. So I got to see more of who Lee was because of those bits of interactions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was lost in herself.
Yeah.
Or had lost herself, not lost in herself.
She was lost in her role.
Yeah.
Which is tough. It's a tough place to be.
And that's where the writing really did the whole thing. Now, I mean, you could watch this and just be like puritanic, right? And be like, well, they're both fucking terrible people. They shouldn't be together. And that's where a lot of people will land who have those mindsets, but we just had like multiple conversations earlier.
We've been having a lot of conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're not in trouble in our relationship or anything.
No.
But it has to do with some like stories that we're putting together and a script that we want to work on. And just, in general, but the concept of relationships, much like sexuality, everything has had a standard applied to it. Marriage is between man and woman. Man goes to work, woman stays home. They have as many kids as possible until, they start dropping dead. And that's it. And then there's gender roles and stuff. And that shit has been gone for so long. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not like it's an epiphany or making an announcement. We all know that shit has died decades ago. And where we are now is, how do you have a relationship without that one guideline? You just have it. Because the only wrong relationship is if somebody's hurting somebody.
Right.
Right? Abuse, things like that. Never, I don't give a shit. To each their own. Nope. You cause harm to another human being, mentally, physically, emotionally, then you're shit.
Yeah.
And that
never
relationship
acceptable.
is no good. But there are people who do have these kinds of things happen.
Yeah.
And don't say anything because they know it's never going to happen again.
Right.
Right. You could argue that, that's dishonest, that's lying. Here's the thing, and I hate the shades of gray bullshit because I think there's something better. The world is not defined by a line. The world is defined by trajectory. And every individual on this planet has a trajectory. When two people come together, they have a shared trajectory. But in that, there's still variations, right? We were just saying, you don't become one person.
Right.
You're two people
in a partnership.
And sometimes things aren't working.
Yeah.
I would, if I was writing this and we were going to get to that far into the end, I would have them speak about it. Because I would position it as, because they really did in the beginning, they seemed like bang, 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 right? That's why the first time we watched it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because I'm expecting this comedy, and they got along so well, and they have their little jokes. They just meshed.
Yeah.
Really?
And I mean, they weren't fighting. It was just, it was just a little meh.
Yeah.
Right.
And that could have just been them. I mean, at that point, you don't know.
Right.
Right. Everybody's different.
Right.
Every relationship's different. I think watching this would make you think, because we thought, what should they have said something? Would they have said something?
Right.
Do you really come down on her because she actually did the thing. She actually physically kissed, you know. But if Ray hadn't come and cockblocked Tim, it would have been a
Might have fucked that girl.
he was gonna.
Right?
He was gonna. I think he was in there trying to steel his nerves, wash his face, and be like, oh, you know, let's get out there and.
Right. So is intention the crime or, what? But she stopped herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
After kissing him. She was like, nope.
She stopped it.
Yeah.
Yep. She went in again before stopping it.
Right.
Right. But, and then she's like, step back. Didn't say anything. And that's what I loved about that scene. Just gave him that look, like that half smirk, kind of sorry.
Thank you for a wonderful night.
Yeah. Later, bitch, kind of look, I mean, she was a little more cordial than that.
Sure.
And I like that Orlando's character wasn't like, hounding. He just smiled and took his bottle of wine and walked back up the beach.
Yeah.
Right. I from a story standpoint, I think it was done very well.
Mm-hmm.
It has the similarities to Lost in Translation, and I'm sure if you'd seen After Hours, you would have probably landed on that too.
Mm-hmm.
It was just different. My only criticism is that trailer sucks ass.
Yeah, terrible trailer.
They need to pull that down, erase that fucking disc, burn the film, everything to do with that trailer, and make a new and appropriate one, because I feel like whoever made it didn't feel like they could sell the movie as is.
Yeah, I think that's why they did the trailer the way they did it.
And I think that's what cost them to not make any fucking money.
Which is troubling, because this is a good movie.
Yeah, this was in theaters.
I would watch this again. It wasn't in that many theaters.
Doesn't matter. It could be in one theater, and they
could have made 30 theaters.
Could have been in one, and they could have made a boatload of money. But the first time someone gets in there because they saw a trailer, they're going to go out like we were going to.
Yeah. If
we hadn't watched it again, what a shit fucking movie.
Yeah.
Based on this description and this like hijinks and stuff. It's like, so you got to watch Heat for the first time.
Yeah.
The other night. And I told you how when I first saw it at Blockbuster, when it came out on video, I almost didn't watch it. I'd seen like one commercial, so I knew it was out there, and it was just brief. But Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, fuck me, Tom Sizemore.
Yeah.
Danny Trejo, who at the time wasn't Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
But, I'd seen him in a couple thug bits, and I'm like, okay, this is a sound setup. Wes Studi. All these people I am on to see. But the fucking thing in the back was like Robert De Niro plays a bank robber who's volatile, partner or sidekick. Volatile sidekick does this and that. Is this explosive thing. There was nothing explosive about that fucking movie. That is a super slow walk. The other thing that drew me to that movie
was a slow burn.
Yeah, it was Michael Mann. I love Michael Mann's movies. Some people don't like his style. I love it. From original Miami Vice to this, The Keep, the film version of it. That was him.
Didn't he do that Red Dragon? Not Red Dragon, but the.
Oh yeah. Now that you said it.
The one that was Red Dragon, but not called Red
Manhunter.
Dragon. That's the one.
Yes, Manhunter, the original depiction of the whole, Hannibal Lecter story pre Silence of the Lambs.
Right.
And then they remade that as Red Dragon. I love that one. He did do Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which...
Oh, sure.
Which, say what you want, it wasn't great. Kevin Costner, love seeing him in movies. Not as a Brit. That was a failure. Morgan Freeman was wasted in that.
Robin Hood stuff is tough to nail because everyone has an idea of what they want it to be.
It is. So I'll say that one I'm not too hip on, right? But cinematically, it was what I expected from Michael Mann, right? There's certain close-ups, there's certain ways and angles that he shoots every single fucking film. So anyway, you saw Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if I had given you the trailer that made it look like it was a hard-packed action, like fucking John Wick kind of thing, right? and then you went to go see it, how infuriated would you be?
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
Right? And what would you have to say about this blockbuster, volatile sidekick bullshit? Because Val Kilmer's in this fucking movie for like 7 minutes total.
I know.
Right? He's got like, I think 8 lines. It's all De Niro and Pacino because this is who the movie's about.
Mhm.
You know, Ashley Judd's in there a little bit. And, you know.
Yeah, I'd be very confused. Like, what are you talking about?
There's just so much going on. But anyway, it's a slow burn.
Mhm.
It's a very slow movie, and it's a thinking movie. And it's a dual portrait. It very slowly paints the pictures of these two main characters who are exactly the same at the core,
Mhm.
right? But just from different perspectives and on different sides of the fence.
Right.
Yeah. Overall, we like this movie.
I would watch it again.
I would too, and it will be on my like rewatch list, just like Lost in Translation, just like Local Hero and Station Agent, and all these movies that are soothing. This is a soothing thing. It's not abrupt. It's not a morality statement.
No, I mean, it's not a judgmental thing.
No,
right?
No. If you are watching it out there, whoever you are, and you feel like it is, you're bringing the judgment.
Right.
That's you.
That's a reflection of yourself.
Yeah. This is two people who hit a bump and seem to have gotten past it.
Right.
Right? For the better.
Yeah.
For both of them.
And I feel like there need to be more movies like this because these kinds of movies make you ask those questions, right?
Let me say this. I know they got over that bump. You know how? Because they were talking about going out to breakfast.
Kid-free.
Well, it is like we have to get our kid. Can we have breakfast first?
Right.
And it's like, yeah. And that was a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because up to that point, we know everything was with the kid. And we know that life. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Everything was Lily. Everything.
We went to Perkins after dropping her off at the airport so she could go to Grandpa's house for Christmas.
Oh, did we even say she's gone? We just said we were on vacation.
Yeah. So our daughter is at Grandpa's for the week. As of recording, this is the week of Christmas.
Yeah.
But so she's traveled across the country. We dropped her off at the airport. After her plane took off, we went to Perkins to get lunch. And Perkins doesn't sponsor this podcast, but if Perkins is listening, we're open to it. And she stalked our locations on our phones because she does that.
Yeah, she used Find My while she's in flight.
So we're trying to enjoy our first lunch together, just us, just adults. And she texts, she's like, "You're at Perkins without me?" So it never ends, guys.
I can't believe you went to Perkins without me. I'm like, oh my God. Well, yeah, she sent me. I'm like, look.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, it's a huge thing.
It is.
Being kid-free for this week. You know, I mean, we still have the animals, which means we can't just like go fucking hog wild. We're here at home.
You can call us and text us.
It's a staycation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is so rare that we are without her in our presence, you know, and it can be like a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
Right. It can be heavier than it should be. And sometimes a little wearing, you know, mom and dad need we just need some time.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it's been altered because of the fucking animals. We got to be home. We can be gone for 6 hours and that's it. Unfortunately, everywhere there is to go is at least an hour away. So 2 hours of that 6 hours is round trip.
Yeah.
Right. And if we want to do something like really exciting, we can go there. We got 15, 20 minutes and then we got to head the fuck back.
Yeah.
You know, but it's that whole thing. It feels like it sucks, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, that's my daughter. That's your daughter. It's our kid and whatever. Right. Whatever. You know, there'll be a time when she'll be an adult. We can still get
and we'll be like, we miss her so much.
I know.
She never visits.
And we're talking about her on the podcast. I told you yesterday when she got on the plane, we were going to be sitting talking about her.
Spend the whole week talking about her.
Like we always do. She's gone for a week in the past. but it's usually like during summer, and we were both
Mhm.
working.
Yeah.
We didn't take time off. So, this is the first time. This is the first time uh, in at least 20 years for me that I've taken Christmas Christmas week off. The only thing that would be close is when I worked for the school district. Um, these last 2 weeks of December, everything was shut down. So it was kind of built in. It didn't have to use PTO.
Sure.
Right? Well, because I was on salary, I had 80 fucking days of vacation anyway that I never used. But that doesn't count because back then I was on my own, and I'd volunteer at the Wolf Creek emergency and stuff, and I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the first time we've had our vacation together without her being here.
Yes.
Yeah. So weird. But anyway, so we get it. And, folks think when you watch this, you'll get it too. We didn't have these kinds of issues, but some people do. And I think they addressed it well. I think the actors did their thing.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. Watch this, writers, directors, actors, everything. Watch it. Look at how these relevant things to you were done, because I think they were done exceptionally well. And I think this is a sleeper. I don't think there's a huge crowd. I don't think there's a huge cult following.
I don't think there is.
I think there should be. Just,
It doesn't have great ratings on IMDb.
fuck fuck that.
Yeah. Fuck all those letters.
IMDb, fuck them. Because it really is just a fucking advertising whorehouse, and none of that shit is qualified. And I mean, spend an hour, read reviews.
Yeah.
And you'll see people are just talking out of their ass, not anything useful. It's information gathering for us because it's got who starred in it, and that's pretty much what we need, who directed it. But yeah, anyway. So
with that, check out our website,
lordsofmisruleproductions.com.
Do you like listening to this podcast? Do you want to help us continue to make this podcast? Go to that website and join our Patreon. Become a patron.
Yeah.
Help us out.
Do some things. Take action. Let 2025 be the year you take action.
That's right. Make it your year.
Indie, because it's not just the podcast. We're using this podcast to help, in as much as we can, promote indie film.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have a small group of friends we've met through this podcast, and we are going to continue to help them because there is no end. There's no end to it, right? Terrifier 3 is out there. We don't need to promote it because that fucker is launched, to Saturn on its own.
It's great. We could cover it, and we might.
But just because they had a ton of money, and Damien is out there working his ass off, promoting. So is David.
Yeah.
Right. He's done so many fucking bits as Art the Clown and all kinds of ads and stuff. They've got the juice right now. Right. But we're still going to keep pushing because, Damien didn't have that money way back, and he got to where he is because people kept helping push shit, let it get out there. So, like, share, comment, get the algorithms to push this out to more people. Become a patron, help financially.
Yeah.
Because we want to help indie film, and we have some plans that we want to get moving on as well.
Yeah, and we've committed on this podcast to making 2025 our year.
Yeah.
So we've got some things to do. We got some work to do.
Yeah, help us out because you're helping others, right?
Yeah.
We talk about it. David, Ryan, Keith, Clear Focus Movies.
He's got a film coming out in March.
Yep. Desert, and we're going to be talking about that and having him on because we've seen it twice now.
I know. It's good.
Wonderful. Pondo Boys are going to have something going on. Jeff's going to have something going. Desert All Productions, Pondo Enterprises. We have all these people. Kyle Hester, actor guy. Find him on YouTube. Find him on Instagram.
David Axe out in South Carolina is still
David
Axe, stuff out.
Alex Cox. I don't think he needs our help so much because he's like a sentinel. He's just like there. He does his stuff, You know what I mean? We'll get it out there though, because I don't know what the advertising budget for Tombstone Rashomon was, but I know that we got people interested in it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what this is all about. Let's help each other.
Yeah.
You know, folks.
And if you have made a movie, worked on a movie, starred in a movie, lit a movie, catered a movie,
if you've parked cars for a movie,
sure.
If you've been on set,
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form, if you have been a part of the process that isn't on set, and in pre-production, post-production, right? Reach out to us.
Yeah.
Because you're a fucking filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know?
We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to see what you did, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Because that is what we do.
Well, and it's good because what's the difference between indie and studio? You know?
Right.
And if you never worked like hard studio, then let's talk about how your jobs have been from one indie film to the next and the challenges and stuff. Let's help each other. Let's encourage each other. Let's support each other. Let's get these wonderful fucking movies made and give the big middle finger to Hollywood because I don't even want to get into it, but the shit that we had talked about, they're fucking redoing and remaking again.
Yeah.
Done. But anyway.
So yeah, reach out to us. Our emails are on our website, lordsofmisrulproductions.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you follow us on Instagram, I may follow back. But anyway, we got an email address. We'll take the rest as it comes.
Fabulous.
Okay, B-siders.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Let's knock the fuck out of this thing. Let's hit this thing so hard 2025 won't ever know what happened. It'll be delirious with just
hell yeah.
All right.
Wow.
So this is Jim.
And this is Danny.
And we'll talk to you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye.